and we're just having a little natter off air, and she hasn't committed to doing it, and I'm not going to put the pressure on her to do it. But Hayley, you're considering doing something cold, even colder than the weather tomorrow.
Yeah, I am considering a dip in the sea just to get the circulation going. But it depends on the time I'm there and whether the tide is in or not.
Oh, now Denise, she loves this show. She commented when we put the promo post up at 7 o'clock. She's like, "Oh, I love this show." Denise is a blue tit chill swimmer. So she's a regular in our oceans around Pembrokeshire. And in fact, when Toby went to Castle Hot Tubs before Christmas, they had him plunge in a chill pool to experience those benefits that you're talking about, Hayley.
Yeah.
Have you seen that video? Because it's
No,
on
I
video.
haven't. No, I'll have to have a look at this. I think we've learned. I grew up in a small village with an outdoor pool, which was literally from the river, freezing cold river, through a filter into the pool. So I've grown up with that sort of summer of freezing cold water, and my kids are doing it in the sea because obviously we don't have the pool now, but we're doing it in the sea, and we haven't been in this year. We haven't been in yet. So tomorrow I might take a little dip and enjoy the cold. I don't like the cold generally, but in the water's lovely.
It is. And one thing that amazes me is how quickly we acclimatise to the cold once we're in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is good. You feel, as much as you feel cold, it's the buzz after of the rush of all your cells working and being awoken to this freezing cold stuff. And apparently, the longer you're in, your liver starts to regenerate.
No.
Yeah, starts to kind of work and flush and do all sorts of things.
See, cold
all of a
water
sudden, there's going to be so many people rushing to the sea.
Tammy, are you one of them?
I will be.
Yes, of course I will be. It is on my list, and in fact, one thing I didn't achieve last year is me and a friend of mine. We were gonna go down to the sea and jump in there because of these health benefits and try and make it a semi-regular thing. Because like the research out there, we don't have any of it in front of us, so I'm not going to quote anything. But take it from us, it's a 2 thumbs up. But if you do have any health conditions, seek medical assistance from your doctors first. Disclaimer done.
Yes, indeed.
Done. If you've just joined us, it's me, Tom, it's Tammy and Hayley here on Healthy Minds, Better Lives. We've just been talking about that pressure of January and a new year, new you, and how it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Tammy's a big proponent of saying, why now? Why today? You could have done it before. You can do it tomorrow. You can do it whenever. But if it's something, and this is what Hayley's reminded me this morning, is that if it's something that you want to do, then you're more likely to achieve it anyway. And if you've got like-minded people that can support you doing it, then that's even better again, which is wonderful. But there is still a bit of self-discipline that might be needed during that time. So what we're looking at now is the mechanics of maybe you've come into January and you have done that thing of setting goals. What does that mean? Hayley, what does it mean to set a goal?
For me and the children, it's about being intentional. So it's about understand. It's like the sat nav, isn't it? It's understanding where you're headed so that you understand what actions you need to take and what resources you need, who do you need in your life at that time, and then taking the action of all things you have to do. You have to take action.
That's a key part. That's like part 2, isn't it, of goal setting? It's we can make as many lists in the world that we want. Yes, I'm going to do this. This is my goal. I'm going to do that. But if you don't do anything, you're not going to ever get any nearer to it. Tammy, how come? I imagine there's a few people that have made the nice big long lists of what they want to do, which is great. Like, we don't want to dissuade people from doing that, do we?
No, not at all. But I also have to remind people that, your habits will determine your future. So if you keep doing the things in a certain way, you're going to be able to predict the results, the outcome. It's that simple, cause and effect. We think about successful habits, create those positive rewards. And in comparison, those negative habits will breed negative consequences. I really like what Hayley said there about that intent. just wanting to do it. It's just that clarity of setting those goals, ditching old habits and maintaining the new ones. And the only way I can just kind of explain that is that if you ignore healthy habits in favor of just laying on the sofa or eating really unhealthy food, you shouldn't expect to feel healthy. So that's a really simple way of explaining it. Keep doing the same things, you'll be able to predict the outcome. So again, it's that intention, it's that want to change. So ditch the old habits and start making the right decisions for you. Sorry.
Yeah. My mouth dropped to the floor at one point that you said it. We're going to talk more about mindset a bit before we finish here on Healthy Minds, Better Lives. But you were saying negative. What was it? Negative.
Negative habits breed that negative consequences.
Yeah, and one thing that I was thinking is that if you're writing these lists all the time and you're not achieving them, every time you look at it, you're reinforcing the fact that you haven't achieved them, which by as a byproduct means you're less likely to achieve something that's less grand, because you're breeding that habit all the time. You're looking at this list, this unattainable list that you're not ticking off, and you think, oh well, I can't do them, I can't do anything, and all of a sudden you're in a bit of a downward spiral there.
Yeah, it's that vicious circle, then, isn't it?
Yeah. Hayley, how can we set goals that don't set us up to fail?
I think it's making them easy to achieve. So for me and the kids, we set the goals. We look back at what we've achieved, what worked and what didn't work. So the things that worked, we bring them into this month, and then we set the goals going forward. But it's making them, knowing what resources you need. So you make every step of it easier. What resources do you need? Who can help you or support you? What do you need and what you need to do? So by taking the actions, even if it's having a daily action taker, so you measure the actions you're taking. But what people tend to do is set goals without the intention and not look at what they can do, what they need to do. And then they start to sort of wonder why it's not happening, because they don't take the action.
And I suppose what's important, Tammy, is that if you do take an action towards your goal, that you put both fists in the air and say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about celebrating your victories, however small. They don't have to be huge, So if you're putting a lot of work into something, you want to be able to kind of just give that pat on the back. Celebrating those small victories is a great motivator and can help you keep moving forward, to keep you going. That's not guaranteed, but just by seeing those slight changes, it's about just celebrating the good work that you're doing.
Yeah. And I'm just going back what Helen Marie said in part one of this evening about I don't look at New Year's resolutions or goals until I'm back into my routine. And I suppose that is the danger if you make these goals when everything is bliss and you're in this holiday mode because you haven't gone back to work yet, and then all of a sudden you're back into that routine. Hayley, how do you start trying to integrate it with what's already going on?
Again, it's about taking that assessment, isn't it? What's life like at the moment? I mean, I like going out to nature, and I've struggled to go to nature because of all the commitments of the children. So I planned to go Christmas time, it didn't happen. But what I've learned is I've got to give myself permission to make mistakes. I've got to give myself permission to fail, then give myself permission to learn from those mistakes and failures, and give myself permission to succeed. Because it's something we don't do. We don't think about saying to ourselves, I'm allowed to fail. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm allowed to learn. I'm allowed to succeed. We pressure ourselves to do it perfectly well the first time. And if we don't, we punish, or we just go off track and stay off track. Whereas actually, if you make the mistake today and you look back and you ask yourself the question, so what went wrong? What went right? You've got a lesson that you learn from. So the next time you won't make the same mistake again. But we punish instead.
And that's very much it's like a cultural thing, isn't it? Is that we spend so much of our childhood and adolescence learning, where we make mistakes and then we learn and we develop and we grow, and then all of a sudden you have to be picture perfect every single time, and the permission to learn seems to go out the window a little bit the older you get. Tammy, have you come across that experience as well?
Yes, I have, both professionally and personally. And it comes down to just mastering your own mindset. Your mindset is the lens in which you view the world. Your beliefs, your abilities, etc. And again, mastering your mindset is the key to unlocking your potential and achieving what you want to achieve. So again, it's about doing what's right for you, and if it doesn't go right, again, as Hayley said, giving your permission to kind of acknowledge it, but not dwell on it. We do a lot of dwelling, and we look back retrospectively. We have that kind of like negative forecasting, looking into the future, and then it just all becomes quite absorbing. But again, it's about, just like Hayley said, just giving yourself that permission that if it goes well, yeah, well done, let's validate that. And if it doesn't go okay, then we can try again.
And particularly for those that might be doing something profoundly different this year. Maybe they've always wanted to be that little bit creative. So I'm going to go to an art class. I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna do pottery. I'm gonna go to a writing class. If you've never done that before, chances are you might not be as good as you thought you were, and you might get some criticism from trying something new. Not like hopefully constructive from a teacher, but you might get some criticism from those within your network and your circle who all of a sudden you've changed. And you need to allow yourself to be a beginner again.
Yeah, it's about being patient. It's about being persistent. Is the bottom line. We as humans, we were never very good at walking. We had to learn that. Yeah. So it's going to take time.
That is a very good point. Charlene, good evening, Charlene. Thank you for joining us. And she's saying that she's the same as Helen. When I was targeting myself to lose weight, I did small targets, like the lady said, but I had to keep reminding myself that it's not about the numbers of the scales. I was noticing that my figure had changed despite it not going down. It kept me motivated. I remind myself it's a lifestyle change, not a diet, which also tips into a bit of mindset that we're going to jump into a little bit later on. But Hayley, that's perfectly summing up how we look at setting up the goals, how we give our permission to fail, celebrate those small successes, and also not looking at necessarily the destination. If you look Mount Everest, you're not going to do it. But if you take one step in front of you and then another, then you're more likely you're able to look back then and say, "Gosh, I've gone really far here."
Yeah, I agree. I think what Charlene's pointed out there is that sometimes it's not about the weight loss. When your jeans are too big, or you've lost an inch off your waist, which you're not measuring. And I one of my thoughts was, as I was reading Charlene's post, is stop measuring your failure by how far you've got to go. Measure your success by how far you've come. Because that we again, it's not something we do. We tend to want to measure our failures. Oh, look how far I've got. I've still got all this. Well, actually, when you look back, you've lost half a stone. You're down 2 inches in your waist, 3 inches in your hip. There's all those things. But again, when you set the goal, there are wider, not consequences, there are wider benefits that we often miss. And because we're not achieving what we think we should be achieving, and we're missing all those other things, we start punishing again, or we start sort of saying, "Oh, well, it's not working," or "I'm not doing it anymore. I need to do something else." Just think we knock ourselves off course.
Yeah, because if you go to Hayley, you just mentioned you're going to be reading lots of business books this year now, 104. That you're going to come across on more than one occasion SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable. What was the R again? Realistic and time limited. And one thing that SMART doesn't allow you to do, which is what Charlene's done, is it doesn't let you to rate your success based on how you feel. And Tammy, you talked with Dr. Megan. We're going to hear from Dr. Megan a little bit later on. But your gut feeling and how you're feeling and how it might shift your perspective, not only weight loss, but any goal that we're feeling. If we're feeling a sense of achievement, even if it's not at the rate that we planned, and you're feeling good about that, surely that's a good thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When we are in that positive frame of mind, we do see opportunity. We do see positive outcomes. We are more kind of solution focused. We're not dwelling on, the things that we haven't done. We're very much in the here and now, moving forward, which does have a massive impact on our health and well-being. If we're not in that logical part of the brain, and we're thinking more emotionally, we will see the negative. So again, we will see that Mount Everest that we have to climb. We almost discourage ourselves. In as humans, and we've spoken about this before. Our default can be quite negative. How many times someone come up to you and complimented you on your top, for example, or your shoes, and your default is, "I've had these ages. They're really old," as opposed to, "Oh, thank you, that's really nice." Our default is that negative comment straight away. But again, it's about looking after ourselves, and we're able to make the right decisions. We're able to say the right things. We're able to grasp opportunities when we're in that positive part of the brain.
Yeah, and it is typically at this time of year that we set these goals and we try and change our habits. Hayley's already alluded to this, but doing it once in January and then doing it again next year, is that an effective way of measuring towards our goals and our targets and those little micro habits, or would you recommend something a bit more regular?
Definitely a bit more regular, excuse me. I think just keeping note of all the things that are going right, all the things that are going wrong. So we do it monthly in our house, but you could do it weekly, just a 5-minute check-in. How are things going? You could do that daily. How are things going? Am I feeling it today? Because you're going to have days when you're really not feeling it. I don't care what your goal is. Everybody has those kind of days. And it's okay. But if you're finding that, if you're recording and you're seeing that there's a pattern every Friday there's a pattern, or every 2 weeks there's a pattern, then you can tackle it if that's causing you a challenge in achieving your goal.
I like that. So, and I suppose that you do it as a family. So I suppose there's that individual reflection that you bring to the goal finding. So is it like there's a bit of a mixture, isn't it? It's not you just saying to your kids, "Have you done that?" They've presumably gone away, reflected on it first, and then come to the table with an open, non-judgmental mind, and be like, why is this? Then you can share observations then without being like so hard on yourself, on them, because it's about discussion, not about have you achieved or failed. It's not as black and white in that, is it?
No, it's about what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what do you need to do to achieve that goal. And it's things like, this is the thing with the herd mentality, I suppose, or having that support network. So my son will forget halfway through the month that he's tried a new fruit or he's tried a new food. So I'll say to him on the goal setting, because we'll kind of assess where we've been. Do you remember that you tried that, whatever it was, on, when we had that new fruit? And he'd be like, "Oh, right, okay." He might not have liked it, and he might not have tried it very well, but he might have stuck it in his mouth. For me, that's a bonus. Anything like that is a bonus. But this week has changed. So some of the stuff they've achieved. My daughter achieved getting into college, got into Cardiff City 19. She's in the football academy. She's done all these things that she wanted to achieve. My son, my other son, he's achieved getting running for Wales. He's not quite got his time yet, but we're still working on that. And my youngest, trying new food, and he's kind of taking control of his diet this week and cooking food.
Wow.
So just by being focused and intentional, no pressure. The pressure is for you to understand what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. That lack of pressure, I think, is what allows them to grow more than if I was constantly on their case.
And yeah, because we go back to shoulds. If you're on someone's case, you're no better than all that extrinsic thing that we've been hearing, Tammy, and then all of a sudden you're just like everybody else.
Yeah, and do you know what? If you're being told that you should, you can almost revert back to the emotional part where you're almost like a child and you just want to say no. And it's just almost that kind of like just kicking back, that knee-jerk reaction. You're telling me to do something. I'm not going to do it. I haven't made a decision. It's not from me. So I'm gonna push against it even more. I like the idea of that kind of like the measurement. So for Hayley and her family to kind of get to where they are in the month and look back retrospectively and say, well, look, actually, we've done a lot. So much that I'm going to have to prompt you and remind you of what you've done. Those small things that they just add up. So again, I just think it's really important just to, whenever you start a goal, just you have those measurements, whether it's those written measurements, keeping records, even down to people who are really creative and who make like paper chains, and perhaps tearing a chain off to show that the chain's getting smaller, for example, for those visual aids. There's so many ways of showing that you are working towards your goal. But I just think if someone says should, human nature, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah. Who are you to tell me what to do? You don't even know me. And in fact, that does bring me into the final bit for what we're going to talk about with goal setting and habits, and it's going to help us ease into mindset a little bit. Is that we haven't even touched on different personality types, and is it Gretchen Rubin? She runs a podcast which I'm subscribed to, which I can't find, even though it's here right in front of me. But she's done. She's got different personality types of people. You've got the people pleasers, and you've got the doers, and you've got all these different things. So if you're a people pleaser and someone's telling you that you should do something, even if you don't want to, your natural type is to, oh yeah, I will do it, even if it's counterproductive to your outcomes and your goals. And I think that we will need to cover that in a bit more detail in a few moments. But as a bit of a top line for mindset, Tammy, a quick little takeaway or things to be mindful of before we jump into mindset when it comes to goals.
Just about identifying your goals, being specific. I always struggle with that word. I always want to say Pacific Ocean, and again, that's just so. I do apologize. That mindset is about learning about what hasn't worked in the past and what will work. So focusing on the here and now and moving forward, creating a plan. And setting up ways to measure your progress, whether it's that finding someone to confide in, somebody to work with, and to be easy on yourself as well. Things don't happen within 24 hours. We need time.
We need time, and we are going to take a little bit of time. We're not going to be very long, though. When we come back, we are going to be looking at goals and mindset. And we've already talked about some of the pressures. I've just talked about different personality types. So not only have we got the black and white, we've written down our goals, vision boards. We didn't even mention vision boards and having them on the side there, but we could touch on that again in mindset now as well. How we can help visualize. So all of these things we're gonna cross over, and what to do if we do fall down and our mind starts telling us, "Oh, you failed once, you can't do it again." Fact or fiction? I'll await your answers in the comments on Facebook. We are going to take a moment. We're going to Pointer Sisters and Jump for My Love and Stereophonics with Pick a Part That's New. Parts, we were talking about that earlier as well, and maybe you are doing something new in parts. We'll be back. It's not long gone 10 o'clock here, and a reminder as well, after we talked about the mindset, tune in on your smart speaker PWR app or online for Tammy's conversation with Dr. Megan about gut health and gut feeling, and all the different sources of fiber, Tammy.
There's a lot. There's a lot. And honestly, a very just informative lady, passionate about the work, and just is just a world health expert. So it was a privilege to actually talk to her.
It was amazing. So don't go anywhere. Keep it here with Healthy Minds, Better Lives on this Thursday evening, the 11th of January, with me, Tom, Tammy, and Hayley.